gooey, sticky, sweet, mapley? These are some of the words I'd use to describe maple syrup, which is why I am not a maple syrup expert, unlike my guest today on Across the Fence. Hello, Vermont. I'm Amy Finley. Vermont maple syrup is iconic. It's part of our identity and our agricultural economy. So when it comes to grading maple syrup for consumers, getting it right really matters. We've got a brand to protect. That's where Mark Isselhardt and Joanna Hass come in. Mark is the UVM Extension Maple Program Leader, and Joanna is an Extension Maple Quality Specialist. And they're both part of a first ever maple syrup quality testing lab now open at the UVM Proctor Maple Research Center in Underhill. Mark and Joanna, welcome.
Thanks for having us.
Nice to have you both here today. So let's start by setting the stage. Is all the maple syrup, all the Vermont maple syrup that's out there, is it up to standards? Is our brand in trouble? What's going on?
So we've done at UVM Extension several years of research looking at the qualities of pure maple syrup in the retail marketplace and just measuring to see if it reaches grade A standards.
Okay.
And we know that most does, but
Okay.
there are some instances where it falls short. And that research led us to think about why this happens and how can we support producers to tighten it up and make sure that every drop that reaches consumers is what they expect.
Okay, so we're not in like a brand crisis, but we want to protect the brand. We want to make certain that Vermont maple syrup always meets that quality and standard, the expectation.
Absolutely, and the reason why Vermont and maple is synonymous is because of generations of producers who have put in huge amounts of work.
We've worked hard to create this brand.
Worked hard, promoted, and backed up that promotion with actually delivering the best maple syrup possible. But there's always things to learn. You can talk to producers who've been doing it for 5 or 6 generations, and they're always eager to learn more and to make their product even better.
Right, right. And so maple has been changing, right? I mean, the nature of the industry has been changing over time. Today, how do most consumers get their maple syrup?
Well, it's a little different in maple in Vermont. So we produce half the U.S. crop, and so it's very likely.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. 3 million gallons of syrup every year.
Okay, that's a lot too.
It's very likely that a Vermonter will have some personal connection to a producer, a friend, a family member down the road, and they'll likely get it directly from the producer. The average consumer, and by that I mean outside the maple producing regions.
That's making me realize now how unique it is to live in Vermont.
It
that we
is.
can just go down the street and we're going to get our maple syrup from a friend.
Absolutely.
Okay, so
the
keep
vast
going.
majority of the crop, however, is going to reach the consumer in the form of a syrup that's gone through another business called a packer.
Okay.
So lots of farms sell their syrup to these businesses. They blend and make a high quality, consistent product.
Okay.
But that's generally what will reach the consumers across the country or across the world.
Got it. So it's a little like Vermont, not Vermont, but Florida orange juice. So lots of different growers all contributing to a standardized product that's a blend.
It can be that way.
It can be that way. Okay, all right. So you talked about grade A. Grade A that's the highest, and if I understand it correctly, it's also the only grade that can be marketed to consumers?
Correct.
Okay, so what qualifies a syrup as grade A?
So grade A is the designation on quality that's overseen locally by the Agency of Agriculture in Vermont and federally at the USDA.
Okay.
These are 4 standards on quality. They represent the color, clarity, density, and flavor the industry has come together to agree upon, which represents quality syrup that can go to a consumer.
Okay.
If for some reason it falls out of that, a defect for some reason, it would be called processing grade, which can still be used, but it can't be sold in a retail package and sold directly to the consumer. It might be what you have in a maple flavored granola or some sort of maple cured meat.
Okay.
It still has value, producers still make it, it just doesn't belong in a retail package.
Right. Okay, so when we're going and buying retail, the expectation is that the syrup that we are getting is going to be this grade A syrup. And so then the question is all of it actually living up to those grade A standards?
Right.
Yeah, okay.
And our research would suggest that a portion does not.
Yeah.
The most likely defect would be slightly too dark for the grade that's labeled, which isn't any sort of significant issue, but it does technically misbranded.
Okay, and I know that, so there's a lot of complexity in the world of grading the maple syrup because we talked about the color, clarity, density, flavor. There's also different color classes, right? I mean, so there's also other marks that you might find. Do you know anything about these, Joanna? What kind of marks might we find on the bottle of syrup?
So there are actually 4 colors or grades.
Okay.
Golden, amber, dark, and very dark.
Okay.
And those also have other descriptors. So it's golden delicate, amber rich, dark robust, and very strong, or very dark strong. So yeah, it's
very
quite
dark robust.
Yeah, it's quite a
right.
mouthful.
Okay.
So those are the 4 colors. And in Vermont, sometimes if you're at the grocery store, you might see a sticker that designates the grade.
Okay.
So yeah, sometimes, like Mark was saying earlier, sometimes it's a smaller producer that's putting on that sticker. Sometimes it's going to be the bigger packer that blends the syrups together. So yeah.
Good. Okay. Well, that leads to my next question. So who is doing the grading? Who grades syrup?
So the producer, by and large, does the grading at the time of production.
Okay.
Remember, maple is not like cooking or baking where they say, I'm going to wake up today and make some golden delicate.
Right.
You make what you make, and then you use your skills
Or I
and
guess
tools.
technically the trees make what they make.
Yeah.
And then the producer.
There's an influence
yes,
of trees,
right? Yes.
absolutely, and the processing technology is
Okay.
also has an influence. But in other words, the producer doesn't intentionally make a certain grade.
Okay.
They make what they make, and then they use their tools and experience to determine what they just made.
To like assess and describe it.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then that gets noted on the retail package, it gets noted on the barrel if they sell to a packer. And then ultimately, whoever's name is on that package, as Joanna said, if it's an individual producer, their sticker goes right on. By law, they have to identify who made it.
Okay.
If it's a packer, it could be a private label, it could be their own brand. They're responsible for that syrup measuring up to grade A standards.
Okay, so then that brings us to the new quality lab. What does the lab do? Tell us a little bit about the lab.
For sure. So we talked about the 4 attributes, and we are measuring the 4 attributes in the lab. I'm using both equipment and our own judgment. So 2 of the attributes are quantitative. That means that we put the sample into a machine and we get a number back. So beginning with that, it's color. Vermont does, and Vermont and federal regulations do specify color ranges for each grade. These are numerical values,
Yeah.
right? So we have something called a spectrophotometer. And the spectrophotometer basically is measuring how much light is passing through the syrup itself. So it is reading out a number. And it's very precise. I think it's precise up to like 0.005%. So the error
wow.
margin is
Okay.
very narrow, right? So
Yeah.
if you're kind of wondering if your syrup is falling between maybe a golden or an amber, you can kind of get that distinction with the spectrophotometer. It's
Okay,
it's
okay.
awesome.
Are this the type of equipment that producers themselves have, or is it unique to the lab?
No, actually, so a lot of producers might have other equipment that is not as accurate. And I like to use Mark's speedometer analogy.
Okay.
So it's like a speedometer that only has a 0 and 60 mile per hour mark. You don't know if you're going 30 or 45 miles per hour with some of these lower resolution tools.
Okay.
Our lab is offering more precise instrumentation to kind of determine where exactly you are falling with your maple syrup and to help producers meet targets for their grade.
Got it, okay. So that's the benefit to Vermont maple producers. And they can all access this lab? I mean, how's that work?
Right. So this whole lab was started through a grant through the Leahy Institute for Rural Partnerships, and we're able to get the money to buy the equipment and hire Joanna. And
Yay.
it's really a check on producers' own ability. So we're not going to be testing every drop that syrup producers make,
Yeah.
but we'll be able to verify that their skills are up to snuff. And if they have questions or if there's a disconnect, we can provide technical assistance and
Got it.
feedback to say, okay, well, there's something here that maybe you're not aware of.
Okay, so then it can also help guide them toward extension resources for education that can help them improve their processes, fine-tune their processes, et cetera.
Exactly, and it's
Got it.
really designed just to overall increase the quality that,
Yeah.
that reaches consumers.
Okay, so speaking of quality, this is now the part of the show that I'm very excited about. You brought in some syrup for me to test today, and what do you want me to do?
I think we're going to go A to B, or A
Okay.
to D, if that's okay.
Okay,
And
this is A, yes.
in general,
checking.
lighter syrup is going to have a more delicate flavor.
Okay.
And as you go darker in color, it should be stronger.
Okay.
It'd be really interesting to note, you taste it, and just give it some sense of what you're tasting, and does it meet your expectations, or is there something there you're not expecting?
Okay, so I'm starting with A, which to me does look fairly light, so I'm going to pour out a tiny bit. This is a good way to start the morning. A little maple syrup. I discovered this in another tasting recently. I can only taste with my eyes closed. And it's a very strange thing. Yeah, it's got a very light flavor, delicate, sweet. I've got the maple overtones, kind of got that earthiness that I associate with maple. Conforms to my expectations?
Great.
I think so.
Great.
Yes. All right. I think sometimes it's easier in comparison, right? To be able to put side by side.
So here's another one that has a similar color.
Okay,
and just see
color.
if the flavor matches what you expect.
Oh, okay. Similar color. No, that one I actually would say, to me, it's got like some turpentine type flavors to it.
Interesting.
It tastes, to me, I would say it tastes a little bit off. There's a chemical kind of a flavor to that.
So that's a off flavor that we call, it's a Mother Nature off flavor.
It's a Mother Nature off flavor,
It's not a defect or an issue that the producer did unintentionally. That one's called metabolism.
Okay.
And there are some chocolate notes, sometimes a cardboardy, and it is really the tree reacting to the weather in an odd way, and the chemistry of the sap changes.
This is how it's a wild product. I love this. All right, so now I have this is a darker one. This is C, darker in color. Let's taste a little bit. Okay. Sweet, more brown sugar kind of flavor, I would say, to that. That kind of molasses flavor.
Yep,
a little stronger.
maybe a little brown spice sort of flavors. Yep.
Okay, so now let's compare this one. And okay. So similar but different, more stronger on the molasses side, a little more acidic, maybe.
So the last one you may have got, again, some chocolatey sort of notes.
Oh, interesting. Oh, chocolate, sure, I do
get. Maybe a little
get.
bit of a Tootsie Roll.
And Tootsie Roll, very good. Yes, I think I do get that.
That's a off flavor, again, a Mother Nature off flavor we call Buddy.
Okay.
And that is the tree reacting.
Wrap it in 2 seconds.
Sure,
Okay.
reacting to coming out of dormancy and getting ready for spring.
That's so fascinating. Okay, so I want to get through this. If you're a maple producer, get in touch with the lab to learn more about getting your samples tested and connecting with Extension Maple Education resources. The information to do so is on the screen. Mark and Joanna, thank you for joining me today. It's fabulous. As always, Vermont, thank you for learning and exploring with me today, and thanks to the team that makes Across the Fence possible. I'm Amy Finley. This is Across the Fence. Come back and let's learn and explore again tomorrow.